Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 12, and we have one slight problem, that due to failing eyesight, I grabbed the wrong book from my shelf. It says chapters 7 to 11, and when I looked at it, and I looked at 11, and I thought it said 14. So I'm supposed to start with chapter 12. So thank you. Bhrgupati to the rescue. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And that's chapter... So let's see, I'm supposed to do the chapter introduction here. Okay, so we'll read the chapter summary, and then we're going to do verses 1 through 23. In his Amrita Prabhava Bhashya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur summarizes this chapter as follows. The king of Orissa, Maharaj Prataparuja, tried his best to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Nityananda Prabhu and other devotees informed the Lord about the king's desire. Whoops, I must have touched the wrong thing there. Okay. About the Lord, king's desire. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not agree to see him. At that time, Sri Nityananda Prabhu devised a plan. He sent a piece of the Lord's outward garment to the king. The next day, when Ramananda Roy again entreated Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to see the king, the Lord, denying the request, asked Ramananda Roy to bring the king's son before him. The prince visited the Lord dressed like a Vaishnav, and this awakened remembrance of Krishna. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the son of Maharaj Prataparuja. After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed the Gundicha temple before the Rath Yatra took place. He then took his bath at Indradumna lake and partook of prasadam in the garden nearby. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed the temple of Gundicha, a Gaudiya Vaishnav washed the lotus feet of the Lord and drank the water. This incident is very significant, for it awoke within the devotee ecstatic love. Then the son of Advaita Prabhu named Gopal fainted during kirtan, and when he did not come to his senses, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu favored him by awakening him. There was also some humorous talk between Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu during prasadam. Advaita Prabhu said that Nityananda Prabhu was unknown to anyone, and that it was not the duty of a householder, Brahmin, to accept dinner with a person unknown in society. In answer to this humorous statement, Sri Nityananda Prabhu replied that Advaita Acharya was a monist, and that one could not know how his mind could be turned by eating with such an impersonalist. The conversation of these two Prabhus, Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu, carried a deep meaning that only an intelligent man can understand. After all the Vaishnavas finished their luncheon, Swarup Damodar and others took their prasadam within the room. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took great pleasure when he saw the Jagannath deity after the period of the deity's retirement. At that time, Lord Chaitanya, was accompanied by all the devotees, and all of them were very pleased. Okay, so that's the chapter summary. And we're going to do verses 1 through 23. And I will confine my remarks to verses 1 through 23, so the other devotees who are following me don't feel like I took all their stuff. Okay, so text 1. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the Gundicha temple with his devotees and associates. In this way, he made it as cool and bright as his own heart, and thus he made the temple a befitting place for Lord Sri Krishna to sit. All glories to Gaura Chandra, all glories to Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, headed by Srivas Thakur. I beg their power so that I can properly describe Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Me too. I beg their power so I can properly describe these pastimes. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned from his South Indian tour, Maharaj Prataparudra, the king of Orissa, became very anxious to meet him. The king sent a letter from his capital, Cuttack, to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, entreating him to obtain the Lord's permission so that he could go and see him. So, let's see, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Maharaj Prataparudra, he's requesting permission to go see Lord Chaitanya. So requesting his permission so that he can go see him. Replying to the king's letter, the Bhattacharya wrote to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, replying to the king's letter, the Bhattacharya wrote that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not given his permission. After this, the king wrote him another letter. In this letter, the king requested Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, please appeal to all the devotees associated with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and submit this petition to them on my behalf. If all the devotees associated with the Lord are favorably disposed toward me, they can submit my petition at the lotus feet of the Lord. Well, he's right about that. If he gets the favor of the devotees, then he'll get the favor of the Lord. So that's what he's hoping here to be able to do. By the mercy of all the devotees, one can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Yeah, right about that. Without his mercy, my kingdom does not appeal to me. Okay. So, Maharaj Prataparudra, as you said, he's correctly assessed the situation. He understands he has to receive the mercy of all the devotees, and then he'll be able to attain the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And he goes on to say that without his mercy, without Lord Chaitanya's mercy, my kingdom does not appeal to me. So let's think about this a little bit, what's going on here. Maharaj Prataparudra is a great king. He's in a line of kings. His father was a king and a Vaishnav. His father was a king and a Vaishnav. They were powerful. They were famous. He was famous as a great fighter. It was said that the Muslims, they weren't able to enter into that part of India. Maharaj Prataparudra was such a powerful king that, when the Islamic occupation was there, they weren't actually able to occupy the part of India that he was the king of. He was powerful, okay? He also had a reputation of being very charitable. He was a great personality. He had like 5 wives and a couple dozen sons, and he was a great king. And he's saying here, without Lord Chaitanya's mercy, my kingdom does not appeal to me. So let's, what is this? Trying to understand this statement. When I was reading it, I came up with some sort of an analogy. Imagine something like this, that somebody's like a very wealthy person, like Henry Ford, okay? Say Henry Ford in the latter part of his life was thinking, I've got so much money, I've got so much wealth, but what I really want is, a really good education. And if I can't get admitted to Harvard University, then all this wealth means nothing to me. It's kind of like that. It's just to give you an idea, try to get a handle on it. It's like, here's this person, he's very well situated, but he's considering that this is all nothing if I don't get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So we'll read on. If Gaurahari, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, will not show mercy to me, I shall give up my kingdom, become a mendicant, and beg from door to door. See, so he thinks it's so important. When the Bhattacharya received this letter, he became very anxious. He then took the letter and went to the devotees of the Lord. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya met with all the devotees and described the king's wishes. Then he presented the letter to all of them for inspection. Upon reading the letter, everyone was astonished to see that King Prataparudra had so much devotion for the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. See? So once again, back to our analogy, it's like when all the family members of Henry Ford hear that if he doesn't get accepted into Harvard, then he's going to just give up all his wealth and become a beggar on the street. They're like, what? I mean, that's amazing. I mean, it's that important to him? See, so in the same way, these devotees are struck that this great king, opulent, powerful king, that this means that much to him. It's like, whoa. This is like amazing, Not an everyday occurrence here. So it goes on. The devotees gave their opinion and said, the Lord will never meet the king. And if we requested him to do so, the Lord would surely feel very unhappy. So they're experiencing a dilemma here. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then said, we shall go once again to the Lord. They've already been once, in other words. They've already asked once on his behalf, and Lord Chaitanya refused. He says, but we shall not request him to meet the king. Rather, we shall simply describe the good behavior of the king. So that's their strategy. Having thus reached a decision, they all went to the place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There, although ready to speak, they could not even utter a word. Sometimes, probably many have experienced that. You have something planned, that you're going to say to somebody, or sometimes I plan classes. I have a class. I know I'm going to give a class, and I'll plan two, 3, 4 classes sometimes in my mind. But then when I actually sit down to give the class, the things I was planning I was going to say, just it doesn't feel right to say it, so I don't, and wind up saying something totally different. So it's kind of like that. This is the moment of truth. They had this strategy. They had it all planned out. We're going to go before Lord Chaitanya. We're going to, describe the good qualities of Maharaj Prataparudra, and maybe, that's going to influence him. But when they got there, they couldn't do it. That when they felt the Lord Chaitanya's mood. So anyway, Lord Chaitanya says to them, after they arrived at Sri Chaitanya's place, the Lord, seeing them, said, what have you all come here to say? I see that you want to say something, but you do not speak. What is the reason? Nityananda Prabhu then said, we want to tell you something. Although we cannot stay without speaking, we are still very much afraid to speak. We want to submit before you something that may or may not be befitting. The matter is this. Unless he sees you, the king of Orissa will become a mendicant. Nityananda Prabhu continued, the king has decided to become a mendicant and accept the sign of a mendicant by wearing an ivory earring. He does not want to enjoy his kingdom without seeing the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there's a purport here. Prabhupada says, in India there is still a class of professional mendicants who are very much like the gypsies of Western countries. They know some magical art and mystical processes, and their business is to beg from door to door, sometimes pleading and sometimes threatening. Such mendicants are sometimes called yogis and sometimes kanapata yogis. The word kanapata refers to one who has put a hole in his ear to wear an earring made of ivory. Maharaj Prataparudra was so depressed by not getting to see Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he decided to become such a yogi. Ordinary men think that a yogi must have an ivory earring in his ear, but this is not the sign of a real yogi. Maharaj Prataparudra also thought that to become a mendicant yogi, one must wear such an earring. So basically, once again, he's feeling how his life is worthless. He's feeling, unless I can get the darshan, unless I can actually have this meeting with Lord Chaitanya, my life is worthless. My life is worth nothing. I might as well become, this is like very low level in society. I might as well just become one of these mendicant yogis, which is tantamount to saying, being nobody, nothing. So he's really, feeling very strongly like he has to meet Lord Chaitanya. It goes, Nityananda Prabhu continued, the king also expressed his desire to see the moon-like face of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his eyes' full satisfaction. He would like to raise the lotus feet of the Lord to his heart. Hearing all these statements, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind was certainly softened. That's important. But externally, he wished to speak some harsh words. That's an important point right there. We'll get back to it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I can understand that you all desire to take me to Cuttack to see the king. Sri Chaitanya, Prabhupada's purport now, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is naturally the reservoir of all kindness, and as soon as he heard the statement made by the king, his heart immediately softened. Thus the Lord was ready to go see the king, even in Katak. He did not even consider allowing the king to come from Katak to Jagannath Puri to see him. It is significant that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so kind that he was ready to go see the king of Katak. Apparently, it was never expected that the king wanted to see the Lord at his own place, his place in Katak. But by way of being externally harsh, the Lord indicated that if all the devotees so desired, he would go to Katak to see the king. Okay, so this is interesting here, because here from this statement we're getting the impression that, well, Lord Chaitanya is willing to see the king, but he's already refused. This is the second time he's refusing. So what's going on here? I mean, how do we understand this? I mean, on one level, we're hearing Lord Chaitanya is repeatedly refusing to see the king, but at the same time, we're getting statements here that he's, his Sri Chaitanya's mind certainly softened, but externally he wished to speak some harsh words. So, what is the reason for that? Would anybody like to venture a guess? What's the reason for why Lord Chaitanya, we got one taker here, why Lord Chaitanya is externally speaking harsh words, but he wants to see the king? Mother Nagapatni, go for it. Yeah, why is he refusing? It's contradictory here. On the one hand, he's not accepting to see him really. He's speaking harsh words. If I read on, that's 23. That's my limit. I can't go past that. But if we keep going on, well, you'll see he refuses to see the king. But he wants to see the king. So what's going on here? Why? I think we can mention the answer, though, can't we? I mean, it's mentioned in the chapter summary. Go ahead. Oh, you're giving tomorrow. You don't want to say, huh? All right. Well, there's a reason. We'll say that. There is a reason. There is a reason. I don't know if I'll be able to do my class without saying it. But there is a reason why Lord Chaitanya is doing that. And you don't want me to say, huh? All right. He has to show an example. One of the roles of Lord Chaitanya was the ideal sannyasi. See? So, he's showing how strict a sannyasi has to be. To that point, where I'm a sannyasi, and there's that verse he quotes from the Bhagavatam about how it's worse than drinking poison for a sannyasi to meet with a woman or somebody who's attached, a man who's attached to women like that. So he's the ideal sannyasi. He has to show the example, right? And that's why he's doing that. But internally, we can understand he really does want to meet. He understands who Maharaj Prataparudra really is, that he's a great devotee, and he really does want to see him. He really does want to see him. Maharaj Prataparudra is, it's mentioned in the Gora Ganadesha Dipika. I didn't elaborate on too much right there, so that's good enough. In the Gora Ganadesha Dipika, it's mentioned that Maharaj Prataparudra in a previous life was, did I say that right? Yeah, it was King Indradumna. King Indradumna, and I'm not going to go into the whole story, but King Indradumna is one of the personalities who was very, very instrumental in us having the Jagannath, Baldev, and Subhadra deities, because he wanted to worship the deities, and he what's the word? He commissioned an architect. Was it Vishvakarma? Yeah, he commissioned Vishvakarma to make some deities for him, and Vishvakarma said, okay, on the condition that you just let me do my work and don't disturb me, because if the moment you disturb me, then I'm going to stop. That's it. So, King Indradumna said, sure, fine, no problem. So, behind closed doors, Vishvakarma was doing his, sculpting, and it was going on, and King Indradumna was hearing him work. He heard chip, 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 and then at one point it stopped. He didn't hear any noise from behind the door, and that went on for some time. And so finally what's going on? How come? So he maybe something's wrong, or anyway, he couldn't restrain himself, and he opened the door. And there was Vishvakarma, and he was just sitting there. He was kind of looking, contemplating the deities. And I guess he was just, absorbed in trance, trying to get inspiration for his next chip or whatever. And then when, Maharaj Indradumna came in, he said, okay, well, that's it. I mean, we made a deal, right? And he said, yeah. I said, well, that's it. I'm not going to work on them anymore. But they weren't complete. They were just in he hadn't finished his work. So Indradumna Maharaj, he said, that's okay. I'm going to worship these deities. I'm going to worship these forms as they are. Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. And that's the right? That's why Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra look the way they do. Because Vishvakarma hadn't finished his sculpting work there. But Indradumna Maharaj had so much bhav, he had so much devotion that he just decided, that's okay, I'm going to worship him just like this. So that was in the, I think that took place in the first half of Lord Brahma's life. It goes back, it's a very, a really long time. I think I remember reading that. So that's, just to give you some background information on Maharaj Prataparudra. He is a great devotee. I mean, it's not explicitly stated in the Gauraganadesha Dipika that he's a Nitya Siddha, but I think you could safely say he's a Nitya Siddha. He's one of the eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, like that. So that's a point. Now, another point is, the question is, now what's the deal here? Why is, because we've all heard the statement that from Prabhupada, don't try to see God, but try to act in such a way that God sees you. Right? Has everybody heard that statement? Prabhupada would quote his spiritual master, don't try to see God, but try to act in such a way that God sees you. So it seems like what's important is to act in such a way that God sees you. So why is Maharaj Prataparudra so, making such a big deal out of seeing Lord Chaitanya? Why doesn't he just do some service? Right? Why doesn't he just render some, as fond of saying, some menial service? Why is he so concerned about seeing Lord Chaitanya? Okay. Well, this is go ahead. Yeah. So that's there's nothing wrong with really wanting to have the personal association of the Lord or his pure devotee. What that statement is really trying to emphasize, I'll get to you in a second, is that one should have a service attitude. When it's saying, don't try to see God, but try to act in such a way that God sees you. It's really not trying to say that there's anything wrong with wanting to see God, but what it is trying to do is it's trying to emphasize the point that you should have a service attitude. That's what really counts. That's the really important thing. If you have a really good service attitude, because as a result of having that really good service attitude, you will see or experience, Krishna. Krishna will reveal himself to you as reciprocation of your service attitude. Not that we just want to. It's really basically it's trying to condemn the attitude of wanting to see God, like Prakritsa Sahaja, no service attitude. Archer, do you want to say something at this point? Good.
That statement is directed towards neophyte devotees, obviously.
Right.
Because the world in general, people say, I don't believe in God, show me God. That's the attitude when one is on the lower platform. You would never go to Lord Chaitanya or Radharani and say, oh, stop moaning about seeing Krishna, just do some service. No, you wouldn't do that. They're on the platform where their heart is constantly attached to Krishna. So seeing, not seeing, it will be like when Madhavendra Puri was advised by Ramchandra Puri to, stop moaning about Mathura and Krishna, just meditate on Brahman. That was an insult to his guru, because his guru is on that platform of constant remembrance of Krishna. So to tell an advanced devotee, don't try to see Krishna, just do some service, that would be an insult. So that statement is obviously directed towards neophyte devotees.
Right.
Those who are not sure yet, or they don't deserve because they haven't done anything. The pure devotees, they're constantly serving Krishna, because the service of Krishna is not just external menial service. This constant remembrance of Krishna, that's also service. Smaranam.
Right.
So they're on that platform, they're smaranam, they're always remembering Krishna, so they're always serving Krishna. So to tell them to stop trying to see Krishna and just, serve Krishna would be an insult.
Yeah, so this was not some make-show thing on the part of King Prataparudra. He was feeling it. He wasn't desiring to see Lord Chaitanya, with some motivation for, prestige or something like that everybody will think I'm a great devotee. Nothing like that. He was genuinely, really strongly desiring to have the association, the darshan of Lord Chaitanya. And so, it's completely bona fide. Some further support of that is that there's this one really nice pastime where Lord Chaitanya is in the Jagannath temple, and he's standing by the Garuda Stamba. Swarup Damodar is with him. And this lady was there in the temple, and I think she got up on the Garuda Stamba first. I'm not sure if she climbed up Lord Chaitanya and then on the Garuda Stamba, or on the Garuda Stamba and then Lord Chaitanya. I think it was the Garuda Stamba, and then she got up on that, and then she had her hands on Lord Chaitanya's shoulders so she could see the deities, And so Swarup Damodar was there, and Swarup Damodar saw that, and he went, get down, what are you doing? Get down. And Lord Chaitanya, he was just taking darshan of the deities, but then when that happened, of course, what's going on here, And he was, so Swarup Damodar, when Lord Chaitanya reacted, he was probably thinking, okay, now he's going to chastise this lady, because she committed a double offense. She was standing on Lord Chaitanya, or climbing up Lord Chaitanya and standing on the Garuda Stamba. So 2 offenses, right? So he's probably thinking she's going to get it now. Lord Chaitanya's going to really, But no, Lord Chaitanya chastised Swarup Damodar. Lord Chaitanya said, "Oh Adivasa," "Oh Adivasi," means original. Actually, it's the way it's translated is "Oh uncultured one." The literal translation is original inhabitant. Adi means first, and Vasi means resident, and it's a phrase used to refer to the aboriginals, like the Bhattataris and the Adivasis and the other aboriginal tribes, and they're outside the Vedic culture. They're not within the Varnashram Dharma. They're lower than Sudras. So uncultured. That's what Lord Chaitanya meant. Oh, uncultured man. Why are you doing this? Let this lady, see Jagannath to a full satisfaction. And Lord Chaitanya goes on and says, I wish I had that much eagerness to see. So in other words, obviously Lord Chaitanya didn't think there was anything wrong with somebody wanting to see the Lord, because here's this lady, she was committed a double offense, but he admired that quality in her, that she had so much eagerness to see the Lord. And Lord Chaitanya himself wanted to see the Lord. When Lord Chaitanya went to Jagannath Puri, the first thing he did, he went to the into the Jagannath temple, and when he saw the Jagannath deities, of course he went unconscious like that. So no problem there, but it's so anyway, so Maharaj Prataparudra is completely justified in this desire, and he had a great service attitude. I think even before this, he was in the habit of, he had a golden broom, and he'd sweep before the Rath Yatra. He was always, he was doing that even before Lord Chaitanya, his association with Lord Chaitanya. That was a regular thing he would do every year, of sweeping in front of the procession. Yeah.
Sometimes we see the relationship because the king doing that. Sometimes it was being rooms and sometimes the others, and everybody, they just pass the everybody. Have you seen that?
I haven't noticed, but yeah, the significance was, here's the highest personality, Maharaj Prataparudra, and he's doing that menial service, and so that, it's nice like that. Let's see what other points I want to make here. Well, here's one point that, you have to remember when we're hearing these pastimes, we're hearing descriptions of personalities that are there liberated. In the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter, there's that verse, chapters, text 19 through 22, and part of the verse is, how's it go? Sukam ajyantikam yad tad buddhagirayam atindriyam. That it's talking about how, somebody who, when they get on the transcendental platform, it says in that joyous state, one experiences boundless transcendental happiness through transcendental senses. See? So all these personalities in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya's associates, Maharaj Pratapuja, they're in that category. They're in that category, and we're hearing about it. And we're being given the opportunity to enter into that. That's what the Krishna consciousness movement is. It's like an invitation. Okay, this is transcendental life. You're hearing about transcendental life, and if you take up the process, we can enter into. You could experience it. We can experience it ourselves. Okay? So, good to remember that. We can't. At the same time, we have to remember we can't imitate. We have to follow in the footsteps. But not imitate. Like, for instance, Lord Chaitanya, Maharaj Pratapuja, he was kind of almost demanding. Well, not quite demanding, but, repeatedly requesting, I've got to see Lord Chaitanya, I've got to see Lord Chaitanya, which was appropriate for him, it was appropriate for him. But in our case, like if we were to be insisting, I have to see Srila Prabhupada, or I have to see Radhanath Maharaj, or I have to see, that might not be, it's not, it might not be quite so appropriate. In other words, there is, in our situation, a point at which we should just be prepared to do the menial service and not demand the association or the darshan of the elevated spiritual personalities. In other words, there's a difference between imitating, if without the qualification we're demanding the association of like our spiritual master or etc., then that's imitating. But, and following in the footsteps is when you understand the underlying principle, which is to have that service attitude. See, so, we should be more interested in following in the footsteps. It's having that service attitude of being ready and willing to do anything and everything to serve, the Lord and His representative, and not be concerned necessarily with whether we're having the direct personal association. If you have that, if you're really feeling it honestly and genuinely, like Maharaj Pratapuja, okay. But if you're not, then just, do the service and, follow that other instruction. Don't try to see God, but behave in such a way that God sees you. It's attract the attention of the spiritual master and the Lord by your service attitude. So that's an important point here. From this past time, and just following on from that, is that it's good if we could be a Prahlad, right? Prahlad Maharaj, very elevated devotee. But if you can't be a Prahlad, at least be a Dhruva. Dhruva Maharaj was also a great devotee. Dhruva Maharaj wasn't, at least initially, he wasn't on the level of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was a Mahabhagavat right from the get-go. He was liberated even within the womb of his mother there. But Dhruva Maharaj was, started off as kind of a gross materialist there. He approached the Lord for fulfillment of material desire, but he became a great devotee. He became a pure devotee. So the idea is that, nice if we could be a Prahlad, but if we can't be a Prahlad, be a Dhruva. Somehow or another, Rupa Goswami would say, Yena tena prakarena mana Krishna navesayat, that somehow or another be engaged in devotional service. Because the result will be, if we just are determined to be engaged in devotional service and stick to the process, we will definitely come out the other end as pure devotees. That's by Krishna's mercy. In one lecture, Prabhupada was describing more than one lecture, but one I can remember, Prabhupada describes how Krishna is like the sun. You know, the sun has this quality, it's prophylactic and antiseptic. Prabhupada uses those two words in Isopanishad. Prophylactic means that it doesn't become contaminated, and antiseptic means that anything that comes in contact with it becomes purified. So Krishna has those qualities. It's just like the sun. You know, and Prabhupada would give the example, if they say there's like a big pool of very dirty substances, stool, urine, etc., like that, in the Mojave Desert, okay, on a 140-degree day, and the sun is shining down. Okay, that whole big filthy ditch, sewerage ditch, if it just is exposed to the sun, because the sun's so powerful, it evaporates all the water from it, and it just sterilizes the whole thing. You see? And the sun doesn't become contaminated by doing that, but that whole situation becomes purified. So in the same way, if somebody somehow or another, some way or another, engages in devotional service, becomes attached to this process of Krishna consciousness, they will become purified. As I said, you'll come out the other end a pure devotee. So that's what we have to do. That's Krishna's mercy, somehow or another. You know, yena tena prakarena mana Krishna vasaya. Okay, so I'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
So I was told, thank you, Bhrgupati, for a nice class. I was told that until someone gets like initiated, that whatever they're doing is like not, has like no merit, or they're not, or something like that. Someone was telling me, and I wanted to know like what was your opinion, or is that true, or?
No, I think that's blatantly false. Let me repeat your question, make sure I heard it properly. You were told that until you're initiated, what you do has no merit?
Yeah, well, like you don't actually make progress
You're not
until
making,
you're
no,
initiated.
I don't think that's correct. In the first Back to Godhead magazine I read, which Judah Karma and Prabhu read the same one, I got it in Port Authority bus station when I was rained out of a camping trip, and the only thing I remember in that whole magazine was it was one of these, you know, sometimes they reprint conversations between Prabhupada and devotees. So the only thing I remember in that whole magazine was these devotees said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, when can we be initiated? And Prabhupada said to them, you are already initiated. As soon as one becomes serious to follow my instructions, that is initiation. Now I'm not saying, by saying that, I'm not trying to say that there's no need for a formal diksha, etc., but, you know, what I am trying to say is that is significant. When you make that decision, when the jiva makes a decision to take shelter of the instructions, the knowledge that he's receiving from a pure devotee, you know, representative of the Lord, and makes a decision to put that into practice in his life, that's significant. You're making progress. From that moment onwards, you're making spiritual advancement, you know. So you're definitely making advancement even before you're formally initiated. If you're taking shelter of what taking seriously Prabhupada's teachings, you're making advancement at every moment. That makes correct? Is that correct? Yep. Any other questions or comments? Radha Krishna?
Haribol Prabhu. Why, like, it's like a governor and a king are in the same position, more or less, right? So
King's
why,
higher.
yeah, why double standard? Like Lord Chaitanya went out of his way to see Rupa Sanatana, and also took the advice of, who is it, Sarvabhauma, to see Ramananda Roy, right? But like King Pratarudra, whenever that he would come to Jagannath Puri, like Kashi Mishra was his guru. He would massage his feet and would inquire about like Jagannath, right? So he knew that, you know, it's like he's a devotee. Why this double standard? And then the other side is that, like, I don't know any sannyasis that follow that example. You know, if Obama wants to see one of our sannyasis, he wouldn't say that, oh, I'm following Lord Chaitanya example, I'm not going to see you, right? So what about Sankirtan movement? You know, it's like how to explain that?
Yeah, good point. Okay, well, I'll take a shot at it. Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they'd already renounced, though, right? By the time Lord Chaitanya was meeting with them, they'd already left their positions as, ministers. No? Where?
So they had written letters to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to visit them and liberate
Where?
them from wherever that they were like ministers, right?
In
in
Prayag, Varanasi?
No, not before Varanasi, right?
Okay, we'll have to further research that. Okay, we'll have to kind of research that. But getting on now, Ramananda Roy. Well, he was asked by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, so maybe that's one thing that comes to my mind. He was specifically requested by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to meet Ramananda Roy, and because he was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told him what a great devotee he was, and also it wasn't as public. Maybe that's another consideration, that here's Lord Chaitanya, this is the king now, and it's really public, so maybe he thought it would be a really bad example to be so publicly meeting with the king. And then in relation to the last question, why are our sannyasis meeting? They'd be delighted to meet kings and presidents and so forth and so on. Well, it seems like after Lord Chaitanya, maybe that I don't know. I wouldn't say that his predecessors broke with tradition, but there's a higher principle involved. Like, for instance, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, what to speak of not wanting to see kings or presidents. He made the statement that if we could get these respectable people to come to the temple, we'll cook meat and serve them meat. You see, so he was so concerned to spread the Krishna conscious movement. He felt that was the highest principle. There's a hierarchy of principles, in other words, and at least for our immediate acharyas, that on the top of that hierarchy is the principle of spread the Krishna consciousness movement, and the principle of not meeting with a materialistic or a worldly man is there, but it's not as important as spreading the Krishna conscious movement. So that's why our sannyasis, Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, and us, all of our sannyasis are, might be aware of that, but they would think it's much more important that we meet them and try to preach than that we avoid their association when there's possible some advantage that we could in meeting them that we could have for the Krishna conscious movement. That makes sense? Okay, so I'll stop there. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.